Yo, what's up guys, the Insane Game Freak here to bring you kind of another gaming discussion, and this time it will be on something I like to call the PS360 problem, which is pretty much regarding the next gen consoles known as the PS4, Xbox One, and Wii U, but specifically I'm referring to the PS4 and Xbox One, because it was something that was brought up from the numbers I saw in terms of sales for Black Friday. And I was like, and it made me want to do this. Also, by the way, I got this a few days ago. Yeah, I know I got it fairly late. I think I'm up to World 4 in this game. Fucking love this game so far. And this is coming from someone who has never played. I have actually never beaten a 3D Mario game. Now that I think about it, no, I have not. I have at least tried most of them, except for probably the Galaxy series, which I know is blasphemy. Mario's been one of those things where I'm a Nintendo fan, but it's not for Mario. I always was a Sonic fan more, for obvious reasons you could tell. I mean, for God's sakes, I have Lost World on the damn console. That's the fucking point. Awesome game. If you haven't been a fan of Mario in a while, I would say try this one, because for someone who hasn't really touched a Mario game in a minute, this is some good shit. Anyways, getting into the point of the video. So, the VG charts for November 30th, for the week of November 30th came out, and it proved to be some interesting sales. Long story short, for you Nintendo fans, no, Wii U and Wii were at the bottom. The only consolation prize we have is that it beat the Vita, but honestly that's not really an accomplishment. I mean, for God's sakes, the Vita, the fact that the Vita even sells in general just confuses me. I'm being a dick, but you know, honestly, if you own a Vita, good for you. It's perfectly fine. If you like the Vita, because hardware-wise, the Vita is a nice piece of tech. It just has a shitty library of games. That's really the only thing that hurts that. Honestly, if Sony would make games for it, it'd be perfectly fine. I'm just being honest. But anyways, if I remember right, the sales went as follows: PS4 was on top, PS3, 360, Xbox One, Wii U, Wii, Vita. And I think like the DS or some shit. Like I think the DS and the PSP were at the bottom or some shit. The fact that they're still selling or they're still being supported confuses the shit out of me. Because I don't remember. Nintendo don't even make. It's not important. The whole point is that you see the list, and the weird thing about it is obviously what you're thinking. The fact that the PS3 and the 360 sold better than the Xbox One and the Wii U. And the PS4, to be perfectly honest, the Wii U sold more than the PS4 in North America. What helped out the PS4 is that it had a very similar reaction in terms of day one launch in Europe like it did in the US. Not the same, because it wasn't like another million, but it was really close. I think it was like 700,000, which in terms of Sony, congrats. You're not going to be going through some shit like you were. Well, we have to wait and see, but so far it doesn't seem like you're going through the same shit you went through with the PS3 when it first launched, which if anyone remembers, that abomination. But it brings up the issue I mentioned before, that I thought that, and I still think that that Xbox One and the PS4 are going to suffer from. The fact that their consoles, to me, I knew the biggest competition for those two consoles wasn't going to be the Wii U. I knew that because the Wii U wasn't directly competing with it in terms of games, considering half its games were kept, and the other half that were Nintendo exclusives weren't even appealing to the same goddamn audience, unless you think that all gamers actually do play Mario and Call of Duty at the same time. I kind of wish more did, but they don't, to be honest here. But the biggest competition for those two consoles are their previous generation brethren. And people are like, well, this isn't a big deal, you know, they're still trying to switch over to the new generation. The fact that the 360 outsold the Xbox One is a bad thing. Now, a lot of people will make the argument, well, it's not fully out in Europe yet, I don't think, was it? No, it's not out in Japan yet, I think is what it is. And it's not fully out in Europe yet. But at the same time, it outsold it in America too, which is Microsoft's like bread and butter in terms of countries and territories and shit. So it's like, why is that? Oh, that's right. Because one, as much as people want to lie to you, the jump between last gen and this gen in terms of PS3 and 360 to PS4 and Xbox One is not big enough. It's not like with the PS2, because Sony supported the PS2 for a while, even when the PS3 was out. it wasn't that big of a deal because the PS2, in terms of graphics, didn't even come close to even getting to the PS3's level. So you could kind of bullshit that and do that. PS3 to PS4, you're going to have a problem. You know what the problem is? Is that, for one, developers aren't going to want to develop for the PS4 if the PS3 and 360 are still making money and still have that huge-ass fan base on it. Why do you think all the multi-platform titles, most of them anyway, next year are coming out on the PS3 and the 362? Well, know why? It's because developers don't want to lose money. They don't want to see. The idea here is to make them exclusive, which will make people want to buy a next-gen console. The problem is developers don't want to invest in a small-ass install base. It's like you limit yourself to, as of right now, if you were to, let's say they got up to 5 million. 5 million versus, the PS3 has a fuck ton of, has a big-ass install base. The PS3's install base versus the PS4 install base. Are you going to just make the game for the PS4? No, you're going to make it for the PS3. But that in lies the problem. If you make it just for the if you make it for the PS3, you have literally, there's barely any incentive to buy the PS4 version. Because I said, the graphic difference is not big enough to make people go, ooh, I gotta get it, because it's that huge of a leap. And when you take things like the PS2 to the PS3, that was a huge ass leap. You could justify that purchase just in terms of graphics alone. You can't do that just this upcoming generation. And people are going to just stick with the PS3 and 360, which makes developers want to keep making multiplats, which keep reinforcing to keep sticking with the PS3 and 360. Most people aren't going to start buying this console until there's some must-have games on it. And that's the people who haven't bought it yet. The one thing I said during my whole E3 impressions of Sony, Microsoft not so much because I didn't care about Microsoft and we had the whole DRM shit going on, is that Sony did nothing to appeal to the gamer who wasn't sure about buying it at launch. Obviously, Sony was like, yo, you need to get this console. In terms of giving me a reason to buy the console, cool, but you didn't give me a reason to get it day one. And that's what you need, because if you want to get that hardcore install base up, you need to have exclusives that you can't get on the PS3, which would make people who own a PS3 want to upgrade. But the problem is that because developers are like, yo, look at this big ass install base. Fuck that. And the fact that Sony said they're going to keep supporting it too, which makes it even worse. And the Xbox 360, it's the same fucking problem. The fact, it still kills me that the 360 outsold the fucking Xbox One in America. You can say whatever you want about them dropping the Wii quick and, you know, disregarding that fan base, but at the same time, their console, you know, the Wii isn't outselling the Wii U on that Black Friday list. It may have done that before, I'm not sure, I don't know, I didn't keep up with the sales the entire year. I'm just saying, as of right now, the Wii is not outselling the fucking, it's not outselling the Wii U on that Black Friday list. But the 360 is. And that's bad. That's really bad. And if that doesn't change, and the install base stays low because of it, because people keep thinking, oh, look at all this shit. You know, Sony sold 2 million in, what, 2 weeks? But if you look at the sales, as I said before, and obviously VG charts is not 100% reliable, we're taking it as a general thing. The fact that the Wii U outsold it in America should tell you something. Because most of its sales come from that first week hype. It was out in Europe. This is the problem I'm going to see them having. Since the Wii can't run a lot of the Wii U's games anyway, you never saw that problem with the Wii and the Wii U. But the fucking PS3 and PS4, come on. Watch Dogs, multiplat, NBA, multiplat, fucking Call of Duty, Battlefield, multiplat. Well, I think that's on the PC if I remember. I'm not sure. I don't really play Battlefield, so correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But the thing I'm seeing is that if developers, you gotta see, the install base is what's gonna make the developers want to develop for the game. Other than that, they're just gonna end up taking risks and shit again. And no one wants to do that when you have this big ass install base over here, and cheap motherfuckers don't want to buy a new console if their previous console still runs the games that they want. And considering, I don't know how long Microsoft is going to support the 360, but considering Sony's going to be supporting the PS3 for a while, PS3 owners, half of them have no reason to upgrade. Especially with all these complaints about shit breaking down, and problems with PSN, and features not being there on launch, and all this other shit. People it's just kind of like, unless you really, really, really want to see some next-gen graphics, which is really, honestly, that's why you would buy a PS4 and Xbox One right now. It's for some pretty new tech, which is what hype. I mean, I can say the thing with Wii U. It's just like new tech gets people excited. Oh shit, new tech, gotta get it. That's why the shit sells so well, because it's new tech, and if it's affordable, that works too. I just when it comes to the PS3 and the 360, I see those two hurting the PS4 and the Xbox One in the long run, at least for this first year. And it's specifically because a lot of the games that most people would buy on those consoles are multiplats. And being a cheap bastard, or someone who can't afford a PS4, or just being someone who didn't care that much about the graphics, people are going to be more inclined to buy shit for the PS3 than the PS4, or the Xbox 360 over the Xbox One, which then makes the install base just stay stagnant, and then people are like, oh, well, look, the Wii U has more in the install base. Well, actually, that still may not do anything. I'm just saying as a general rule. You gotta... You gotta see where I'm coming from with this, and if you don't, it's perfectly fine, but just let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. But I feel like that's gonna hurt them. It's gonna hurt them for right now until they get that shit up, and it's not gonna change. And consider how scared developers seem to be now, or some of them just don't seem to have the money to make next-gen games. Why would people take the risk of developing for a new console that has a small-ass install base, knowing they probably won't get that much money out of it? See where I'm going with this? See? Alright, just let me know in the comment section below. This has been the Insane Game Freak. That's a game. Let it win. Catch you guys later. Peace. Here all the time in the anime is the lesson that Red has to learn throughout the OVA. Which the first episode of the OVA does